This is my oral video, and I'm going to go backwards because I'm going to explain the difference in the time periods as I go backwards. So first we have the medieval Renaissance period. In this period, the aspects music is seen as a commodity. It's a social activity, and musical notation is invented. So they are notating music by their hand instead of having it on paper. It wasn't invented till later where they had it on paper. So they're selling their music by traveling, and they're traveling by road or water, and it's dangerous because they're pirates and they're thieves. So there are people who can steal their music, and that's how they were making their money. Music is performed in the church. The composer that I use is Hildegard, the Alleluia. And composer number 2 is the Pope Marcellus Mass Gloria Palestrina. In the Baroque period, we have the aspects of identifying emotion. It focuses on the text, and it focuses on the words. Biggest genre of this period is opera. Opera is invented. They're selling their music because they're writing for the church, and it's performed in the court and the chapel, and at special occasions. The composer I used for this was Handel's Messiah, and composer number 2 is Vivaldi, Four Seasons. Classical period is the aspect number 1 is the enlightenment and value put on human experience. So they have a social push towards order and reasoning, and it's more about logic. Music is clear and it's normal, and they're selling their music in people's homes because they're being paid by people, and they're writing what they want them to write versus what they want to write. Music is performed in churches and in people's homes again. Composer number 1 I used was Mozart, and number 2 was Beethoven Symphony number 9. In the Romantic period, they struggled against society, and the music was one of the other struggles was to unsettle. The music was unsettling rather than soothing. And struggle number 3 was the beliefs. Work displayed. They believed work displayed creativity, originality, and self-expression. They're selling their music by sheet music, and they're selling it on the streets. They're being performed in concert halls, and because they became too big for the church. The composer I used was Schubert with Elf King, and composer number 2 is Berlioz with Symphony Fantastique. And music since the 1900s was modern day. The struggle number 1 is tradition and innovation. Number 2 is the balance between high art and audience accessibility. And number 3 is individual expression, goals, and community relevance. They're selling their music through YouTube, streaming services, social platforms. It's being performed. Music is being performed in stadiums and concerts and coliseums. And the composer I used for this was Billie Holiday with "I'm a Fool to Want You." And composer number 2 is "Season of Love" from the original Rent movie soundtrack. So the difference in these time periods is in the medieval Renaissance period is very basic, and there's really not much going on with art, music. Everything is just kind of minimal. In the Baroque period, music basically focuses on the words, and it's all about everything is about text. They're writing for the church, so they're not really writing secular music. They are writing secular music, but it's not really being acknowledged because they're really writing for the church. They're performing mostly for the church. Everything is just centered around the church. In the classical period, you have people are selling their music by playing for people in their home. They're hired by these people to play for them, and they have to play the kind of music that they like rather than the kind of music that they want to perform. It's more about logic and reasoning. So music it has to make sense. What they think is going to happen is what they're writing about, and they're writing about the music is was they think is going to happen is going to happen. Music is just basically going by real life. It's not any kind of like plot twist or anything. And they're performing in the churches and in people's homes. In the romantic period, they're starting to become more expressive. People are not just writing for other people, they're writing from their point of view. They're writing, they're selling sheet music in the streets. And because of the syphilis pandemic, a lot of people, and the Bohemian period, a lot of people were outcasts, so they were writing about depression, and they were writing about sorrow and things other than just what people wanted them to write about. Music is different because it's being performed in concert halls, because the orchestra is becoming too big for the church, so they have to perform in concert halls, and more people can come to these concerts, and not just the people who are rich. So music since the 1900, which is modern day, is nowadays we have more. Music is like more is more, not less is more. People are not doing minimum music anymore. You have so many different apps, and you have auto-tune, you have live bands, you have people that are finding any kind of way to be different by adding more to the music, rather than in the medieval Renaissance period where less was more. We're selling our music differently. We're not selling CDs. We're not selling sheet music. We're not selling cassette tapes. Now you have to go on YouTube and things like that to see performance, to see music videos that we're performing in big stadiums and Super Bowls. We're performing at Coliseums, and it's a big difference from the medieval Renaissance when it first started, because there's so many different genres of music now versus when there was just opera. You have R&B, you have pop, you have rock and roll, you have jazz, you have country, there's just so many different genres. You have gospel. It wasn't considered gospel back in the medieval or Baroque period. It was just called music because that was pretty much the only thing that they were writing about. But thank you.